Okay. My name is Mercedes Michalowski. I'm the Executive Director of Oliver Art Center, and you're joining us for our 20 questions series. And we're going to jump right into question number 1. Will you please introduce yourself?
My name is Theresa Youngman, and I am a local Traverse City artist, and I've been painting for 21 years.
Fantastic. So, Theresa, what is your favorite medium?
Acrylic, but golden open slow drying acrylics.
Is that a brand or is that a type?
It's a brand, but it's also a type. They dry within 24 hours, unlike regular acrylics that dry right away, which used with a Masterson palette with sponges, you're able.
Oh. Theresa, it looks like you froze. Okay, so typical Northern Michigan internet. We did freeze a little bit. So I think, Theresa, I had asked you about the paint that you use and why you use that specific brand.
Just one second. Oh, okay. My husband got it in the basement. I'm sorry. The
Okay.
reason I use golden acrylic, golden open acrylic is their ability to stay wet, which
Okay.
allows you to do other things. So I prefer them over the regular acrylics.
So would that be, sorry, I'm kind of asking tangent questions here, but would that be, I guess, if you're an oil painter, would that be a good acrylic to use if you're trying to get into acrylics? Does it have the same versatility as working with oil in that respect?
Sometimes oil painters use acrylics because they dry fast, and they might do an underpainting with them and go over them with oil. So if that were the case, it would not be a good option if that's what you wanted to use it for. But the ability to work wet and wet with the acrylic is what I like.
Okay, great. So when did your interest in art begin?
I think I've always been interested in art because my family has been in art for a long time. My grandfather was a painter. My great-grandfather was a fresco painter from Germany. My grandfather's cousin was a rather famous painter, Walter Ufer. He was one of the Taoist painters of the Native Americans around the turn of the century. And my sister is an artist, and her husband was an artist. So we have a lot of painting in the family. So it's just always been a thing.
Okay, perfect. So in your work, who or what inspires you?
Well, my sister, we paint together sometimes. We work on things. I like the impressionistic painters, Monet, love his work. A lot of local artists inspire me. Just, I guess, nature, just the want to emulate what I see.
And we live in a perfect area for that.
We do.
So if your artwork were to be classified as a musical genre, what genre would it be?
Probably classical, I think.
Great. So could you give us a verbal snapshot of your current work?
Sure. I would say it's realism, sometimes with an abstraction background. That's kind of my goal. If you'd like, I'll take this over and show you a few pieces.
Yes, please.
Okay. Let's see what you can see here. Most of these are realism. Can you see that?
If you angle down the computer just a little bit. Oh, perfect. There you go.
Okay. So that's one. This one was from a picture up in the Upper Peninsula. This is where the kids go to get their prom pictures taken and their senior pictures taken.
Angle it down just a little bit more, Theresa. Oh, there we go. Okay.
So here's another one with some Queen Anne's lace and chicory, just a field, kind of a field scene.
Fabulous.
This one, can you see?
Yep, angle down just a little bit so we can see the bottom.
So this one is from a path in Colorado, Durango, Colorado. This one is kind of just made up.
Okay.
We practice with water. And then this one is from a friend's farm. She has a lot of hollyhocks. And so I got a bunch of pictures of hollyhocks in her barns and things a couple of years ago.
Oh, very pretty.
So That's a little example of some of my art.
Do you have a favorite subject matter?
I started it with flowers, but I do flowers and landscapes, and I'm starting to branch into a little bit more in animals too. I guess I could show you one other picture of I did recently of an owl. Can you see that?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, okay. See.
Oh, beautifully done.
Yeah, so I'm starting to do animals and and stones. This is a big one. I don't know. Can you see
Oh,
that?
wow, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of gives you an idea.
Okay, fantastic.
I don't do much in portraiture. I've done a few things, grandkids, my daughter, but not really a lot with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you could use the shades and tones of just one color in your work for the next few years, what color would that be?
Green, mainly because I like to do plants and that kind of thing. But also there's a Titan green that technically is almost like an off-white, but it's called green. So I think I would be able to do a lot with that.
Mm-hmm. So what is your favorite tool in your art toolkit?
Well, besides my paints, it would have to be my Masterson Stay Wet palette, but also I have an iPad that I like to use that has a couple of apps on it. One of them is called Grid Painter, and the other one is called Notan. And those are things that people can upload that might be helpful for other artists. And so I'm able to take a picture, and if I want to draw it, I have that grid already there. And the Notan is great because it has a grayscale and a black and white scale. And it's very easy to find the lights and the darks with that.
Oh, interesting.
So it's kind of a little cheater tool, but it's great.
Yeah. I'll have to look up those apps because I've heard of Procreate, but I had not heard of those other two. That's
Yeah.
good to know. So what's your least favorite tool?
Computers. having to do things on computers.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think I would, because I retired from AT&T as a technical specialist in engineering, and I worked on computers all the time.
Well, maybe that's why.
I don't know, but I just love the old days where we could take our work in and have it juried that way instead of trying to upload it, because I'm not that good at getting good photos.
Yeah, I have just recently started submitting work, and that is where I struggle. I really struggle with the photos and having it nicely capture what I'm trying to capture enough to give to somebody for them to look at it and go, oh, do I want that? No, I don't. So it's definitely a tricky thing to get into for sure.
Yeah.
So in regards to art or your career, your work, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
One of my art teachers, and I studied with about a dozen local artists, said, try golden open acrylics. And I already had acrylics that I wasn't really happy with, but I had previously done watercolor for about 14 years. And I did pastel for 2 or 3 years. And there are things about those mediums I didn't like. And then when I finally tried those, I didn't want to invest in them, but I did. And then I've been using those ever since.
Wonderful. So that was a local artist, you said, a local teacher?
Yeah.
Awesome. So do you prefer to work solo or in collaboration or around others?
Both, but I probably do a lot more work solo because I kind of get into my own little groove and I get a lot more done that way. But I enjoy going out with a plein air group, and I like those ladies. And then also my sister and I collaborate at times when she comes up. She's from Georgia. She'll come up in the summer and we'll paint together in the sunroom. I have a little sunroom that I use for my studio. We paint together. It's fun.
Wonderful. So which famous artist would make a good president of the United States?
I thought about that, but I really couldn't think of any. I don't know. I'd like to see politics and art kept separate. Sometimes people use art for political statements, but I just prefer art for art's sake.
I like that answer. I've had that answer quite often, so yeah. I think there's probably consensus there.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite meal?
Salad, a good salad.
Okay.
There's so many different varieties and places in town to get great salads. So
do you have a favorite?
Probably Center Street Cafe.
Okay.
Their salads, they've got one with shrimp, and then they also have one with chicken called the Calexico, and those are both excellent.
All right, we'll have to check that out.
They have probably the best lunch place in town, I think.
Okay, good to know. Next time I'm in up in that area, or I guess over in that area, I will have to check it out. So let's see. What type of art or which artist hangs on the walls in your home, other than you, of course?
Well, my grandfather and my sister and her husband, Armand Moumjian, he recently passed away, but he was a fantastic painter who studied in Paris and worked with my sister for like 30 years painting. And then also I have several local artists that were my teachers.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give your younger self?
Start earlier. The thing is, I don't think I would have had time, but between working, I worked for 30 plus years at the phone company and raising two daughters, my husband, the former police officer. So we worked opposite shifts. So I had the sports things to do with the kids after work, and I didn't have time to do art. So I always put it on the back burner thinking that when I retired, I would do it. So I started taking classes a couple of years before I retired. So I'd be ready.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Start earlier. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could time travel backward or forward to safely make art for a week, what date or time period would you choose?
I would travel back to the 1900s through the 1920s. Then I would be able to work with Walter Ufer, and I would be able to also work with my grandfather, who was old enough at that time because he was a generation ahead of him, and meet my great grandfather before he passed away. So that would be the time for sure.
Yeah. So when you settle down, or not settle down, but I guess sit down to work, is there anything that you have to have? Certain conditions?
Yes, definitely. Good natural light. My sunroom that I paint in, although it gets hot and cold, so there are definite disadvantages, it has the best light and also music.
What kind of music?
Well, my favorite is Sarah Brightman,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of different artists that I like. Let's see, Josh Groban, Joe Bassamo, Tim McGraw, Keith Urban. So kind of a mix.
Mhm. Nice. Excuse me. Is there a gallery or museum that you would love to have your work featured in? Kind of like a dream location that would have
The
your work on its
Chicago
walls.
Institute of Art. I was born there. My grandfather studied there. His cousin studied there. That would be my ideal location, Chicago Institute of Art. But if locally, I would like to be in Twisted Fish. And the reason is they have a lot of nice art and they advertise for their artists. They put their work online so people can see it. And there aren't any other galleries that do that.
Mhm. I think that's a great point. So this is a question that a lot of my other interviewees get stuck on. How do you know when a work is finished?
Well, sometimes when I think it is, it isn't. And like I say, I have that home gallery and I'm down there in my treadmill and I have a lot of time to look at those paintings. And so sometimes I'll pick them up 6 months, a year later and do some more on them. And that's the nice thing about acrylic because I usually paint on the thick canvases and you can just pick it up where you left off.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
wow.
so one of the things I look at is if I don't want to sell the painting. If I really don't want to sell the painting, then I know it's done. I don't like to
That's,
sell.
that's an answer I haven't gotten, but I really like that answer. So Teresa, where locally can we find your work?
Bella Galleria at Old Mission Tavern, but they don't open up again until April 15th. They're open from mid-April through mid-January every year, and they're out on the peninsula. Also, I have a home gallery that people can reach me if they want to contact me by email. And my email address is all small, jrtyoungman@gmail.com. And so they can reach me if they want a home visit that can be arranged by appointment. And I also have work during the different shows at Oliver Art Center, as well as Crooked Tree Art Center. I have 3 pieces right there now for another week or so, and also Glen Arbor Art Center. So between the 3 art centers and the gallery, I stay pretty busy.
I'm sure you do. Wonderful. Well, Theresa, is there anything that you want to share that I didn't get a chance to ask you in our 20 questions series, with our viewers?
No, I think you covered just about everything. So yeah, I think we're good.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. It was great to get to know you and hear a little bit more about your work. And I look forward to seeing you in one of our upcoming shows.
Thank you. Thank you for the interview.